And now, in the 80th day of his war, he's still promising the 2 or 3 days. And what you can know for sure by now is that we are not 2 or 3 days away from the end of Donald Trump's war. And Iran obviously knows that.
Donald Trump is getting ready to surrender in his war on Iran, and this will happen without any of the concessions he actually wanted. American lives have been lost. Innocent lives around the world have been lost. Billions of dollars spent for no real reason. And a whole lot of undue stress, I'll also say, for absolutely nothing. And all for an agreement that we don't even know will actually happen. Donald Trump is likely just trying to play the markets. We are going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, someone who is not happy with this outcome, and that says a lot about where we are, is Lindsey Graham. He is breaking down, melting down, and losing his mind in a post criticizing Donald Trump and exposing that he has lost this war. We are going to get into it all. I first want to start with the Trump announcement and the dissatisfaction among Republicans before we get to Lindsey. So let's get into Trump's big announcement. Trump says Iran's ceasefire deal in final stages to be announced shortly. On social media, the president said the progress came after calls with several leaders in the Middle East. Donald Trump said Saturday that the United States is in the final stages of negotiations to extend a ceasefire in the US war against Iran and to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, which, I can't say enough, had already been opened before the beginning of the war. An agreement has largely been negotiated, subject to finalization, between the United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran and the various other countries, Trump wrote on Truth Social late Saturday afternoon. Final aspects and details of the deal are currently being discussed and will be announced shortly. He added, the progress came after Saturday calls from the Oval Office with several Middle East leaders in which all things related to a memorandum of understanding pertaining to peace, Trump wrote, were discussed. The announcement followed a flurry of diplomatic activity in the Middle East as Iranian, US, and Pakistani officials signaled that there were signs of progress towards extending the month-long ceasefire. The urgent efforts to prevent the collapse of the fragile ceasefire come amid heightened threats that the US would quickly resume strikes on Iran if a deal had not been reached. Qatari and Pakistani envoys, arrived in Tehran on Friday as part of the ceasefire negotiations. Pakistan's military on Saturday said that a recent meeting in Tehran between Iranian leadership and Field Marshal Asim Munir, a top Pakistani official who had led the country's efforts to mediate the conflict, was short but highly productive. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, speaking to reporters in New Delhi on Saturday, left open the possibility that the US was ready to resume bombing but also touted some progress in the negotiations. There might be news later today. There might not be. I hope there will be. I'm still not sure, he said. Trump has signaled a willingness to let negotiations proceed while broadcasting overt threats to pummel Iran's civilian infrastructure and energy plants if talks fail. So, while that is new information, it still kind of represents, I don't know, like Rubio doesn't know, Trump doesn't know, and that's why there is so much dissatisfaction. Just listen to Lauren Boebert talk about the war before we get to Lindsey's meltdown.
Lauren, going forward, when you look at the state of play heading into the midterms, maybe now Cuba, the regime, you're going to have to own those decisions when the ballots come back around. And what do you make of not focusing on the domestic battles that a lot of MAGA voters signed up for? That was the war they thought they were going to be fighting, was a policy battle about fixing the affordability crisis at home that has really real implications in your home state and specifically in your district. What do you make of that?
Yes, so these foreign issues that we are facing are not my top priority. I understand that the president is tackling them hard. I praised him for his work in Venezuela. I've praised him for the initial strikes in Iran. And it's really tough to defend all the aspects of this war with Iran currently, especially when we see the Secretary of War doing campaign events in Kentucky, of all places, in the middle of a war. That's really difficult to grasp.
If Lauren Boebert is feeling this way, and she is one of Donald Trump's most staunch allies, then it has probably permeated through the rest of the Republican Party that things are going badly with Donald Trump's war. And even if there is a negotiated ceasefire, it doesn't really mean much because Israel is willing to always quite literally blow those things up. And so yeah, it looks like Donald Trump hasn't gotten any real concessions that he wants. Reopening the Strait of Hormuz doesn't really mean anything in terms of a victory. We still don't know why this all happened. Of course, besides Netanyahu forcing Donald Trump, the desire to have us stop talking about the Epstein files and the ability to make money off of it. But there has been no strategic concession or victory, which is what even Lindsey Graham is saying now. Lindsey Graham wrote on Twitter, "If a deal is struck to end the Iranian conflict because it is believed that the Strait of Hormuz cannot be protected from Iranian terrorism and Iran still possesses the capability to destroy major Gulf oil infrastructure, then Iran will be perceived as being a dominant force requiring a diplomatic solution." Who would have thought of that? This combination of Iran being perceived as having the ability to terrorize the strait in perpetuity and the ability to inflict massive damage to Gulf oil infrastructure is a major shift of the balance of power in the region and over time will be a nightmare for Israel. Of course, Lindsey always thinking about Israel. Also, it makes one wonder why the war started to begin with if these perceptions are accurate. I personally am a skeptic of the idea that Iran cannot be denied the ability to terrorize the strait and the region cannot protect itself against Iranian military capability. It is important we get this right. Oh really, Lindsey? It's important we get this right. Tim Miller responded to this post from Lindsey Graham saying, "Maybe you shouldn't have pushed for an idiotic war with no clear end game." Wow, what a genius idea. Maybe don't start a war on behalf of the Israelis to kill Americans, to kill innocents, to jack up the price of oil and to ultimately give Iran more power. Wow, what a crazy concept that is. I wonder if any president of the past had thought that maybe the diplomatic path, having diplomatic relations with Iran to keep the region stabilized, was the right way to go. Oh no, that was Barack Obama. Yeah, that was the agreement he struck. The one that Donald Trump tore up just because he hated that a black man was president. That's it. So really great concession there, Lindsey. Donald Trump is losing this war. Donald Trump has lost this war. Donald Trump has only given the Iranians more power, and he's done so that Israel can have a pretext for, I guess, continually bombing Iran, going into Lebanon saying that they have to. It's preventative. It's preemptive. Isn't that what Israel always says? And so now we're on the back foot. We have to be more defensive. There are more negotiations that have to happen that Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner certainly aren't equipped for. We're just dealing with a bunch of idiots. That's what this is. We are dealing with a bunch of idiots who have no interest in actually understanding what is laid out before them, which is a real problem that requires real thought, not Donald Trump posting AI slop all the time. Oh, so you think we need diplomatic negotiations? Maybe we need some smart people in the room. Maybe you think that Donald Trump saying it's road and bridge and port and oil field day and then we're blowing everything up. Maybe that's not smart. Maybe that's not a good negotiating tactic. It's not a negotiating tactic at all. Because what have we gotten? What are the concessions besides Iran demonstrating that they have more power over the region and more control over the Strait of Hormuz? What have we gotten? Anything? Because it seems like no. The answer is no. And even when Lindsey Graham is admitting that now, maybe it's partly because Lindsey thinks that there needs to be more military terror to rain down on Iran on behalf of Israel before this war can end. But even he admitted that that's not the case. That a diplomatic path is probably the one we need to take. Even Lindsey Graham is saying that that is the point at which Donald Trump has really lost, when his warmonger buddy is saying, man, this war might have been a fuck up. And I'm sure Lindsey is on the verge of tears writing this post like, oh my god, dear leader failed, so sad, like he's clearly having a breakdown. But this is just another example of how stupid the people running our country are. They're just dumb. They don't know what they're talking about, and they refuse to think critically about the actions they're taking. I think Lawrence O'Donnell will give a great summary of that in this clip right here.
And now, in the 80th day of his war, he's still promising the 2 or 3 days. And what you can know for sure by now is that we are not 2 or 3 days away from the end of Donald Trump's war. And Iran obviously knows that, since Donald Trump has been telling that lie about Iran being ready within 2 or 3 days to agree to a deal with Donald Trump. It's Iran, after all, that Donald Trump is actually lying about when he uses that magic 2 or 3 days formulation. Imagine the Iranian regime sitting there listening to Donald Trump every week saying that they are going to come around in 2 or 3 days. Donald Trump said today that if he had time to explain it to people, everyone would support his war.
Everyone tells me it's unpopular, but I think it's very popular. When they hear that it's having to do with nuclear weapons, weapons that could take out Los Angeles, could take out major cities very quick. When they hear that, when they're explaining, I'll tell you what, when we explain it to people, I don't really have enough time to explain to people. I'm too busy getting it done.
Of course, Iran does not have those weapons and actually put in writing in an agreement with President Obama that they would never pursue such weapons. Now, here's Donald Trump today not having enough time to explain his war to the American people.
I'm doing a job on the reflecting leg for a fraction of what they paid. Now I've upgraded it I got so into it. I've upgraded it like you wouldn't believe. I'm doing all the walkways outside. I'm doing it properly. But it's a much bigger job. But you see it's happening now. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be waterproof. It's going to be reflecting again.
Yeah. He said the pool is going to be waterproof. Here's more of Donald Trump not having enough time to explain his war to the American people today.
This is a gift to the United States of America. And more than a gift, it's going to be one of the most beautiful buildings that's ever been built in the country or in Washington, D.C. So here's the other facade, see over here. And again, this is taken, these great classical buildings, they're taken out of different parts of the world from very glamorous times. This is Rome. They like the flat roof. Greece likes they call it the triangles, and you see that. This is a porch that looks out over the city. Also, it's developed in such a way that we can have military there, but the entire roof is developed for military. They're very high. They're higher than just about anything else. They have a 360-degree vision of Washington, D.C. They have a massive drone capacity. Not only is it drone-proof, if a drone hits it, it bounces off. It won't have any impact.
No time to explain his war.
Donald Trump is not a critical thinker, and he is not a critical thinker about his war. And that is why we are in this place. It is why Donald Trump says, I can't explain it to you. I don't have time, which is really the my girlfriend lives in Canada version of the war is fine but just don't ask me about it. Yeah, that's how we got to this place. And I don't think anyone is surprised. They're not. But Democrats need to be a lot more oppositional to this. And that is what we are going to push for on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. Until next time, I'll see you.